In 2009, I saw a list online of the most highly anticipated war games of 2010, and on top of that list was White Star Rising by Lock and Load. It is a platoon-level war game about World War II in Europe, and so I pre-ordered it because I was very curious about it. I got it in 2010, but only recently did I get a chance of actually playing it, and today I want to share my impressions with you. First, a quick look at the components, starting from the box, which is very sturdy, exceptionally sturdy. You won't have any trouble if you put it under other games in your collection. And it looks very good. I really like the design. Then you have two player aids. It's not two copies of the same one. It's just two different ones. Terrain charts and chaos table, the turn track, and then other information here, and they're very good quality. Also, then you go to the maps. Oh, the maps are awesome. They look so good. Mounted maps, and they are very playable, absolutely clear, functional, and they just look good. They are beautiful. And you have foiled them with different areas where the battles will take place. Here we go. Then you have the manual. It looks a little thick, but don't be scared by it. The rules start at page 5, and then they go on only until page 16. So basically it is only 11 pages of rules. They're clear. Maybe I wish there were a little more examples. There aren't many, but overall it's not really too hard of a rule book. But then in the rest of the rule book, what you have is the scenarios, and you have a lot of them. Look, these are all different games that you can play, all different scenarios. Scenarios you can see usually use 1 or 2 maps, so it's kind of like a small scale. It's going to be a small board, but look, they're just so many. And the good thing is that they start from basic scenarios where you really need to know only some of the rules, and then they become more and more advanced. They add more stuff. So my suggestion is that you read the rule book once, and don't worry if you don't remember like everything, but then you just set up the first scenario, or maybe the second one, just because I like it a little bit better. You start from the second scenario, you read what you need to double check, and then you play through the scenarios in order, and then you just read the new things that are added from game to game, and it is really a fun way of learning the game as you play it. Then, of course, the game also comes with a quite substantial tray of counters. As you can see, they have nice illustrations, especially for the vehicles. They're good quality. There's a lot of information on them, but well, we'll get to talk about that in a little bit. They're very good counters. Now, to talk about the game in general, of course, there isn't one single goal because the victory conditions change according to the scenario. Certain scenarios you will win by controlling certain areas, which means that you can play a little more kamikaze because it really doesn't matter how many units you lose as long as you have some where they need to be. Other scenarios are about destroying enemy units and defending yours, or exiting certain units from a certain border. Oh, sorry, I got this one. Where was I? Oh yeah. So if there are scenarios where you're exiting your units or defending and destroying enemies' units, and those scenarios you have to play more carefully, you have to be more cautious. Now, each scenario will bring on the board several groups, and each group will have an activation chit that you will place in a cup together with the end of turn markers. Then you shuffle them, and you will randomly draw one, and that of course it's the group that activates first. Then after they activate, you will draw another one, and then suppose you draw this one. Well, this is an end of turn marker, so suppose then I activate this one, and you go on like this. But the thing is that you're not sure that all units in the cup are going to activate every turn, because if you draw both end of turn markers before everything left the cup, well, the units that did not activate just do not activate this turn, which, you know, it gives you a little bit of unpredictability. However, if that is the situation, then you take one of the end of turn markers and you do not put it in the cup at the beginning of the turn. You put it in only after the units that did not activate the previous turn activate the next one. So that means the units will activate from a maximum of every turn, if you just draw them always at the beginning of a turn, to a minimum of every other turn. But of course, it will be most of the time somewhere in between, which is interesting because it adds a little bit of unpredictability. You cannot count on your units to activate 100%, but at the same time, it's not gonna be crazy so that one of your units will never activate and will be stuck in the middle of the nowhere for the entire game. So it adds that challenge, that factor, but does not throw the game out of balance. When a certain formation activates, you activate the headquarter of that formation and all the units that are in the range of the headquarter. That number there is the range. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, all of these units would be in range or would be able to move or attack. So like every game that has that range and headquarter, it has that depth, that layer in which you have to be careful on where you place your headquarter, and of course you can try to disrupt the chains of command of the adversary by attacking those headquarters. Then you also have sub-headquarters in advanced scenarios that project a range themselves as long as they are in the range of the main headquarter, but that gets later. The first thing you can do is moving, of course. And something interesting about movement is it happens with the armored infantry. In fact, the armored infantry has two sides. One is when the troops are dismounted, so they're just walking around the trucks, and the other one is when they actually on the vehicles. So you have to spend some movements, of course, to flip from one side to the other, but these are two sides of the same counter, and they have different values, different movement, different combat values. So it just you keep flipping them from side to side, trying to exploit as best as possible each situation. Of course, you have to watch out for the ways in which your adversary will try to exploit the same option. Just more options, just more fun. Now, there is a lot of information on the counters, but you shouldn't be scared by it because it's pretty simple to read. Here you have the numbers that you need to do range combat against hard targets, so mainly vehicles. Here is range combat against soft targets, so mainly infantry. Here is close combat, and then some vehicles also have an armor value, and the infantry doesn't have that value. And here at the bottom in the middle, you have movement. Also here, with the combat, so the first small number is the range of the firing unit. Then that number, the color one, is the number of dice that you roll, and that small number is the number that you need to hit. You need to roll that number or higher. In this case, you can roll against a hard target 3 dice and you hit with 3 or more. So as you can see, this unit is particularly devastating against hard targets, a little less against soft targets. So there's a lot on the counters, but on the bright side, there are no combat tables. You do not need to take your attention off the map to go and look at the table and cross-reference this is against that other guy. Everything is there, so which I find it's huge advantage. Also, something interesting happens about the close combat that happens when a unit enters the same axe as another unit, and then they roll and apply hits simultaneously, and it can be pretty bloody because there are no terrain modifiers that apply there. However, the thing that makes close combat really interesting in this game is a special rule that gives a bonus of infantry attacking or defending against armor that is unsupported by infantry. So if armor is attacking infantry only, or is attacked by infantry, and armor has no support, then the infantry has a huge bonus, and even more so if infantry is fighting against armor in a city. So this is very, very interesting. Like in a regular game, if this was the situation, probably this unit here would not have to worry about this infantry being here. But in this game, the units of the infantry, if they activate, they could run across the wood because their movement is not blocked by it. It's not even slowed down. And then they could attack here, and in this case, this close combat would be really, really bloody and really dangerous for the Panzer unit. I find White Star Rising an extremely satisfying and rewarding war game. It is fun because it is tense, it has a lot of scenarios, and they're very well balanced. Only towards the end of the game, really one has the impression of knowing where the game is going. The fact that the units will be more or less effective according on how you use them, on how you flip the armor and the infantry, and how you place your infantry together, or not with the armor is a huge thing. It really adds so much to the experience. It is a game that lends itself to solitaire playing very well because there's no hidden information, and the cheat pool mechanism gives you some unpredictability, some variation there. And also, if you're playing against a human opponent, that mechanism again makes things real fun. Enough to create a challenge, not enough that if you lose you will blame the system. You will still have to blame yourself because strategy is rewarded in the game. Overall, I'd say if you're looking for a game at a Platoon level with excellent components, with a very tight gaming experience and just a continuous challenge, well, I would say that Wildstar Rising would definitely be an excellent choice.